Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Growing Generations podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Arce, well known to be the ultimate gardener. I'm a 16-year-old gardening educator down here in South Florida that tries to inspire other people to get their hands in the dirt and grow their own gardens. So, in today's episode, it's episode 2. If you haven't checked out episode 1, I will link it in the description. We had Brooke from the Vintage Gardener with us the very first episode, and we interviewed her and we discussed about winter sowing as our garden topic. And so, this is episode 2, and so we'll be discussing about a new garden topic, and we even have a new gardener with us to interview. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Danny from the Grapevine Garden.
So hi, I'm Danny from the Grapevine Garden channel based in the UK. I'm based in South Wales, and I think it's pretty much the same as like 8B zone in the USA. We don't use zones here, but that is the equivalent I use. I tend to use no dig method. I grow undercover. I specialise in like brassicas, raised beds, and also a lot of DIY and how you can build things in your garden that you can grow on.
Yeah, Danny is an amazing gardener and he knows a lot of things. And so definitely he was someone I wanted to bring on the show since he's a good friend of mine since the beginning.
Yeah.
I met him when his channel was just slowly rising up, and then now he's off to the stars. So definitely I wanted him on the show. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the interview side of things. So
Yeah.
Last episode, we discussed about how every gardener has a unique story on how they got into gardening, as well as their first experiences, like what inspired them, etc. So, what has to be your very first gardening experience that got you into gardening?
So we have TV shows here in the UK that based one's called Ground Force, and it used to be more of a DIY. They used to show you how to build things and structures and make your garden very architectural. But also grow amazing flowers and shrubs all around as well, and also, food. And I was always inspired by that as a child, and I had a small area in my back garden that I used to do a lot of growing. And then I obviously grew up, and I moved from the countryside, came to more of an urban area, and my garden's quite small, which is used more for socialising and relaxing, so I didn't have that space to grow things like tomatoes, pole beans and things like that. So in the UK we have things called an allotment, which is an allotted amount of space that you can rent for a small fee. I think I pay about $20 per area, and I've got 2 now. And you can rent that area per year, and water's provided, and it's gated, and it's really secure. And I grow all my food there, and I've been there about 3.5 years now.
That is amazing. Like I always say, each person has a unique story on how they got inspired or what was their very first gardening experience. Some people start from when they were kids, they literally were introduced into gardening at a young age, and others probably at a more older age, but they always have a unique story to share.
Yeah,
So,
mine was pretty much from my grandfather and things. Like he was always an amazing gardener and grew. He had an allotment as well. So yeah, it's definitely in my blood.
yeah, I really love when gardeners start at a young age, so that means that they have been building up experience and knowledge, so they know their stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay, so moving into our second question, which what we were discussing about is that everybody gets inspired. There's a lot of inspiration that moves through the garden industry, and so what or who inspired you to get into gardening?
Yeah, I think it was people like Monty Don, who hosts Gardener's World here in the UK, and that that TV series is famous for showing you how to grow naturally and organically, and it's a massive inspiration to a lot of growers in the UK. Also, people like Charles Dowding, who obviously has become the godfather of no dig. I practice no dig in my raised beds in my growing areas, and that was a massive leap for gardeners in the UK who have always dug and used pesticides and everything else. And yeah, I follow that method as much as I can anyway.
Yeah, Charles Darling is a good gardener. Like he inspired a lot of people to get into gardening for sure.
Yeah.
Since his techniques are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving into our third question, which is what is your favorite thing about gardening? It could be different things that you like to about gardening? Because some people say a peaceful environment, some people say the planting, some people say the plants, the harvest, etc. So what would be your favorite thing about gardening?
There is quite a few things that the reason why I garden. I've been asked this before, and I can never have a pinpoint to one thing. Like, I do use my spaces not just for growing. I do get asked quite a lot in comments, like, I focus a lot of my growing area for food, but there is always an allocated space for relaxation and benches. And I've got my log cabin with my log burner in, which I cook my lunch on the plot, which I've harvested from the growing area. There's things like that, on my other plot. I mean, there is relaxation areas that I think are needed. I think sometimes we focus too much on just doing the jobs. We go to that area to work and harvest, and you get that gratification of harvesting. But for a lot of the time you're there, you're working. But there should be times where you stop, sit back, and look out and see what you've done so far. The progress and the achievements you've done. So that is one of the reasons why I have, my growing spaces is for that, but also because it's a retreat from my crazy life. I work in a hospital. I'm constantly, running back and forth wards with sick people. So to go from that to my area, which is more of a controlled environment for me, I can grow things and, hopefully get successes.
Yeah, what like a lot of gardeners tend to say is the peaceful environment, since it's like something that you're just there, nobody bothers you, the birds chirping, the bees buzzing. It's just something
Yeah.
that, for me personally, since I'm like still a high school student, it's great for me to just walk out here and just like nobody speak, just let me do my stuff. So it's definitely a peaceful environment for a lot of people, but it varies, like you say. So
Yeah, I totally agree. It's for, there's whatever works for them, and for me is mainly those things. I also like this YouTube part of it as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, without that, I like that socialization and interacting and seed swapping in my area, and I think it's fantastic. I absolutely love it.
okay. So when it comes to the garden industry, there is thousands of plants to grow. You always experiment. There's always trial and error, or sometimes with those trials, you always succeed at it. So, out of all the plants you grew in the garden, what would have to be your favorite plant to grow?
We call them runner beans, but I know in the USA they call them pole beans. They're my absolute favourite. I look forward to that season the most of all. A lot of people say tomatoes, but I harvest tomatoes more for canning and sauces and salads. But to get those pole beans fresh with some boiled new potatoes. That's my favourite thing. That's the reason why I started having the allotment, because I didn't have space for those things. And I would have to say pole beans. I just think they're the most tastiest things in the world, and so prolific as well. Like, we get so many variations and such a big harvest from them as well. So all my friends and family look forward to that area, that time of year, and we've only got a month or two, and then we'll have a massive abundance of them.
Yeah, for me here in the US, I always tend to have the best success with bush beans, or which are other called green beans. They always
Yeah,
do prolifically. It's just always those legumes that always tend to do great in certain areas, and they do
yeah,
best with certain gardeners.
yeah,
So I
definitely.
absolutely love growing them. And this year I
Oh,
grew pinto beans, and it was phenomenal growing them. They like were
mm,
prolific. I got so many beans. I dried them. I'm gonna regrow some again.
yeah.
So that's definitely great. So on the opposite spectrum of side of things, what would have to be your least favorite plant to grow?
Aubergines. I think you call them eggplants. Now,
Oh, okay.
they're so hard to grow here. We have such we don't have a long growing season, but we have long enough. But the start of it's quite cold, so they struggle. They really hold. They're trying to hold on for as much as they can, and then they tend to either go into fruition or they don't. And I've just always struggled with them in my area, like really badly. But you can win it all. There's things that you won't be able to get easy, and there's other things that I just put in the ground. Like a rutabaga, which we call Swedes. I could just plonk those in the ground. I don't water them at all in my season, and then I have a huge harvest in winter. but other people struggle with them, and it's just swings and roundabouts. But yeah, aubergines, eggplants, they just don't work for me.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't really like growing eggplants since here in my area in Florida,
Mm.
although they do great. Like if you stay on top of pests and diseases, fertilizing, putting them in an area that is well draining,
Yeah,
or best grown in containers, like you'll have a success. Like you'll get some decent sized eggplants, but I don't like to do all that work. I like to just plant things that will do kind of their own thing, without me being sort of like on top of things. And my family barely eats eggplants, so I barely
yeah.
grow. So I have to agree with you on that one. So in the garden industry, ever since the pandemic, a whole bunch of gardeners were introduced to the garden industry. That was something we were discussing with Brooke. And with those, a lot of creative gardeners came along, which allowed gardening techniques to be introduced to the garden industry, as well as it kind of surfaced up those older gardening techniques for gardeners to get introduced towards.
Hmm.
And so I definitely love gardening, and the techniques are amazing. But for you, what would have to be your favorite gardening techniques out of the hundreds that are out there?
I would have to say raised beds, no dig. Like my climate's pretty good, but I just find having that extra mulch and having that allocated space in each bed to grow things, I just find it more easier for me. I find it easier to work with, to weed, and yeah, I love the fact you've seen my garden. It's very it's sort of like in line as much as it can be, but then at the bottom, then it goes a bit crazy with other um, structures. But at the top, it's pretty much raised bed after raised bed with arches, and they're all homemade arches. But I just find having allocated space with a mulch in the beds and using no dig, I just find it more easier for me, especially with my schedule, in the hospital. I just find having a low maintenance garden as much as I can, and I just like the fact that it's quite structured. And there's a food factory. That is mainly my food factory part. The fig and olive plot, which is only about 2 minutes walk away. There's no structure to that at all. It's quite permaculture. I put a lot of things in different beds, mix them up. But yeah, exciting times for that part of the channel. But yeah, I definitely say raised beds is my go-to thing.
Yeah, I love raised bed gardening, especially since you're able to control what your plants are getting
Hmm.
heated. And so, like, when they're planted in the ground, they're just gonna have to work with what they have. Although you can like amend it and everything, it's not the same. Like you're controlling like everything, like the soil they're in, the watering they receive, and everything
Exactly.
in that area. So I have to agree, raised bed gardening is one of those techniques a lot of gardeners love, and I do love as well, because it just makes gardening way more easier, and the soil always tends to be like it always tends to be rich in nutrients. So that
Yeah,
is
I'm on. I totally agree. I'm on a little bit of an incline on the Grapevine Garden, and raised beds worked better for that as well, because I didn't want it to feel like I was on a hill. And
mm,
by keeping those level and staggering them down, it works perfect for my growing area.
that's great. So moving into the channel or the media side of things, what would have to be your main goal with your YouTube channel, the Grapevine Garden, or the media pages you own under the title, the Grapevine Garden?
Um, I've not actually got a massive goal. Like I hear people saying all the time, I'd love to get to this stage, and I never thought I'd get more than 10 subscribers, and 18 months later, it's growing and growing and growing. I'm happy with it. Um, would I want to be a massive channel? Maybe, but my focus will always be my career, and then this will be my second part of my life. But um, I'd love to. I'm at like I'd like to get to the next stage of having like 10,000 subscribers. That would be a nice milestone, I think. But yeah, as long as the viewers carry on watching, and I'll carry on making videos. If they stop, then I stop. Then it's as simple as that. But I really enjoy it. I love the interaction. I've got a very big community that come back every week, watch my videos, want to know how I am. I always reply to every single comment, and yeah, I purposely allocate time for my viewers. I definitely do.
Agree. I agree. The whole idea of the social media part of things for me is I love interacting with the viewers
Yeah.
since I'm able to hear their side of things a little bit more, and they could help you in certain things,
Oh,
and you
definitely.
also like learn things from them. You also hear great comments from other people saying, "Oh, you're doing great. Like, keep up the great
Yeah.
work." Like, it just motivates me to do more. And like, I always have those like small handfuls of viewers who always return and always comment that I'm doing great. Like, there's this one person who watches me from Central Mexico, and
Yeah.
he always watches my videos and always comments saying I'm doing a great job, and he always kind of relates with the videos. It's just fun to interact with the audience members and just have a
Yeah.
great time all in it. So
Yeah, totally. Like, and I look forward to that as well. Like, I purposely have my videos on specific days because I know I've got that time in the evenings to sit down while they're commenting, and I reply back straight away every single time. Because I had to think a viewer has spent that time to watch your video, hopefully all the way through, and then have spent time as well then to like and comment. And I just think if you can give them that extra minute time extra just to reply back, and ask how they are. Because sometimes your videos, you don't realise how important they are to them as well. They're important to me, but the amount of people that watch because it brightens their day. I'm quite comical and relaxed, and you know, I'm friendly on the channel because I want it to be how I am. I don't pretend to be anyone else. It is presenting, it is showing a garden in a certain way, but it's my way, and I don't want people to come onto my channel and think, oh, I wish I had a channel like that, and make them feel bad. I want them to come on my channel and say, it might look good, but let me go and show you the bad parts. Let me show you my failed crops, just like you get, and that's what I love about my channel, is that I don't whitewash everything. I don't try and show everything to be the best every time, and I'm a professional, because no gardener out there is a 100% professional. We all have failed crops. We all have pests and diseases that we have to tackle with. And I think it's important to show viewers that as well, not just how to do everything so perfectly, because you can do a tutorial and have everything being shown. You could do every single thing of the steps, but you might not get the success at the end, and that can be horrible for a person who just spent so much time. But gardening is by having hope. You hope
yeah.
that you'll get to that end. But if I don't, I like failures. I actually embrace them, because I think that's something that I can try again next year. Try something different. Try harder at that. Aubergines, I'm at the brink of giving up on those. But I've tried and tried and tried. But I like failures because it gives me that chance to try again next year. If everything was easy, I'd be bored. I'd be looking for a new hobby. So I like that about gardening. There's always elements that are battling you all the time.
Agree. Something I always tell beginner gardeners or gardeners in general who always reach out for advice, I say that there's no perfect gardener out there. The gardener who has studied for this, the gardener who has centuries or has so many years behind their belt doing gardening, they always tend to have a failure. And then what I always
Yeah,
say is we always learn from those failures and we improve the next following up season or
absolutely.
when the second chance is given. Because, for example, with me, potatoes, when I was interviewed, potatoes were a fail to me. Like every single time I
Wow.
try, I absolutely fail at them. Although I do the proper things at growing them, it's just I fail and I fail and I fail again. But that teaches me to see what I did wrong, pinpoint those wrong things,
Mhm.
and improve it. Or just realize, okay, this plant, I've tried it multiple times, it's not going to do well. So let me dedicate my time to a different crop that I could try out the next growing season.
Exactly.
So it's all a huge ball of education that you're learning from. And that's why I love doing tutorial videos or other gardeners, because they're able to put their input and you're able to learn from them. And sometimes you're able to avoid mistakes so you don't
Yeah.
feel that bad. But what I always tell young gardeners or beginner gardeners is never feel bad or never feel like a disappointment if you fail or you kill a plant, because I've killed hundreds,
Oh,
famous gardeners have
thousands.
killed thousands. Like, we just learn from it, and it's always a learning experiment. And I absolutely love it because I'm able to learn from it, and you're just able to just flourish from those mistakes.
Absolutely agree.
So, moving in or tying into the seventh question about the goal, where do you see yourself in the future? Because I see some people are like, okay, towards the more career side of things. Some people kind of go towards their YouTube channel or etc. So where do you
Yeah.
see yourself in the future?
Um, a lot of people have said that I'm going that way. You know, my channel's growing to the size that can become a business, but that's never been my goal. That was never my goal. I started off just because I wanted just to vlog. I just wanted to have a record of my growing, and then people started watching more and more, and then the community side of it I love. But I wouldn't, I wouldn't like to say no. I wouldn't want it to be a business, because then one day it could be. But my heart will always be in the hospital. I studied a long time, and I like helping sick people. But I also like helping sick plants as well. But I would say that is always going to be a hobby to me. I'd like the channel to grow and grow. The downside of growing is that the community side of it becomes harder to interact as much, because you're trying to interact with now thousands and thousands of comments. But I'm doing my best as it is.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's why I said that Danny from the beginning is an amazing gardener, because he pushes through. You work in a hospital, let alone it's a very stressful environment. And I applaud you for that, because you're an absolute hero to a lot of people. And in the garden spectrum of things, you're an amazing gardener. So I definitely applaud you for that.
Yeah, like you would never know, you'd never know that I was performing CPR maybe an hour or two before, and I've come from work, and then I've come onto the growing space, turn the camera on, and I'm carrying on, because that's a different format, and people want to see me doing my thing on my growing space, and showing everyone, my journey as well is, and every single week is another progression in my channel and my growing space, and I'm not one that I keep to the same thing. I'm constantly changing, I'm introducing new things, new plants. And I think that's one thing that people do come to my channel come back to my channel because of that things. I'm constantly trying to, I've doubled the space in the last year. I knew that I outgrew my space. I knew the channel needed that as well. So I've now got a big polytunnel, more raised beds, a fruit garden. I'm adding all asparagus in now in the next month. And a big flower garden as well. So I am going out into new challenges. Like, I am not a massive flower gardener, but I am trying. I'm always trying new things, and I'm always trying, and gadgets as well. My allotted area, I haven't got the luxury of most gardeners who've got hose pipes connected to a tap. We have got hose pipes, but we can't use them to water, so we have to collect water and use the hose pipes just to fill up barrels. But I like the fact that I've got solar energy, I've got electricity on the plot, it's all off grid. And like, I've just introduced asparagus, so that'll be going in. I've got a flower garden that's going to be at the back end of the fig and olive plot. And there's a nice big fruit garden, as I mentioned, and it's just more of a, there's a lot more permaculture on the extra parts that I've grown, and the channel needs that, I was restricted with raised beds, no dig, and I've got chickens, and it's a nice area, the Grapevine Garden is, but I needed that extra space to branch out and try new things, like more fruit and being more off-grid. Like, I've got solar panels, I've got solar energy, pumps that pump water and stuff, and it's all off-grid. It's using energy from the sun, just like the plants, to water and produce things on the plot that I couldn't have, like lighting and pumps and irrigation. So I haven't got the luxury, because it's not next to my house, to use those things. So I've had to be creative, and I like my little gadgets and, all that type of stuff on my plot. So I think that's another thing that people like coming to my channel for, because I'm constantly trying to problem solve.
Yeah, like I say, I hope your audience is kind of built to you, because your unique self, a lot of people tend to love what you do, and so the audience kind of just adjusts to what you do. And I always say that, like with me, my audience members can be completely different to yours, but it's always adjusted to how the gardener is and what the viewer likes to see. So totally. Definitely. So wrapping up this interview, where can people find you?
So I'm on YouTube as the Grapevine Garden. I've also got a Facebook page and Instagram, both under the same name, the Grapevine Garden. So come along and have a look, and hopefully you'll enjoy. Subscribe, like, comment, and and I'll see you all there. But also, don't forget to tell me that where you've come from. Obviously mention Emmanuel and say that he sent you over, and that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be leaving all his information towards his media pages in the description box
Oh,
below, so it can
thank
be a
you.
little bit easier. But yeah, definitely go check Danny out. He's an amazing gardener, and as you guys heard his story, definitely go support him and go like share it with other people that you know, because
Yeah.
Danny is a great gardener to listen to.
Yeah, and
So
hopefully we'll do a video in the spring
yeah,
as well together, so they can see us both on the same channel. So that'd be good as well.
yeah, that'd be amazing. So you guys
Yeah.
can see two amazing gardeners together. Okay, so wrapping up the interview, now we're moving into our garden topic of the week. So last week we discussed about winter sowing with Brooke from the Vintage Gardener.
Mhm.
This week is the complete like sort of not towards the winter side of things or growing type of things, if not media type of things. So we're ready to discuss upon gardening on YouTube. So we're going to be discussing more about the side of creating a channel on
Mm.
YouTube, since I know there's this huge like controversy about the algorithm, etc., and certain things like that. I heard a lot of people usually don't like to start a channel because they feel is a little bit too much for them with their daily life. But with people like us, we are carrying a YouTube channel on YouTube, and we just kind of want to share the
Mm.
experience as well as a few things you guys can know about when starting your channel if you're interested, because it's a fun experience, let alone the entire controversies going around.
Yeah.
So, starting off your gardening channel, Danny, do you have any like tips or advice that you could give towards the beginner gardeners or gardeners who are interested in starting a YouTube channel?
I would say definitely do it. Be prepared that it does take up some time. It takes more time as you grow. And I would also say make sure you have a really good clear thumbnail, a catchy title, put a lot in the description. What I tend to do is my whole video, I'll re-watch it back, and I'll be typing what I'm writing, what's happened. I write a story in today's episode, blah blah blah, and I write all that because the algorithm sees all that data and it uses it to push your channel out to other people. But I would definitely say enjoy it. You know, don't think it's a full-time job. It can be if you want it to be, but just embrace it and make your channel your own. Don't try and be anyone else. Don't try and copy anyone else. And that's what I did. I just went onto the channel, I put on my camera, and I just acted myself, and it worked. And I suggest, you know, it could be double the work if you're trying to be someone else or trying to be this presenter that you're not. Never ever confess you're a professional, because someone will always catch you out. So it's always better to say that you're learning as well, and everyone is learning. But yeah, definitely enjoy it. You know, I've enjoyed every single bit of it. You know, there are downsides of it because it can be time consuming, and it can sometimes, you know, it's raining and raining and raining, and you're thinking in your head, oh, I need to put a video up because my viewers are expecting one, you know, tomorrow. So there is some, you know, there is some pressure on you sometimes, but enjoy it and embrace it, but never apologize if you can't put a video up, because life does get in the way sometimes.
Agree. I have 4 years in doing my YouTube
Mm.
channel, and I have to say, time consuming definitely, because you have to dedicate your time into filming the video, planning what topic you're going to discuss about, planning or editing the video, uploading it, creating the thumbnail, creating the description. It is time consuming, but during the process, you have a blast. Trust me, since the beginning, I was quite skeptical. At the beginning, I was like, it looks a little bit too much work. But once you
Yeah.
get into it, you kind of get used to it, and it gets like pretty fun when you do it. Especially when you're introduced to the garden industry, you're getting to know a lot of gardeners out there, and
Yeah.
it's fun to interact with other gardeners, because not only can they help you in the garden, but they can help you with your channel. They can help
Absolutely.
you growing it, not shouting out terms, although shouting out does help, but also giving you guys tips and tricks in how to improve your channel in certain areas
Yeah.
that you probably did not know of. So that's why I absolutely love doing it, because you're interacting with other people. You find people that are in your area, in your state, or in your country.
Yeah.
It's just in a happy environment to do so, and you love the experience you're sharing with your audience members. And that's something I absolutely love in a younger
Mhm.
perspective side of things, because although school and everything, I always tend to get happy when I come to the garden. I'm like, okay, what I'm gonna film, what is it ready? But also, like what we discussed about earlier on in the podcast, is never try to imitate other people. Always
Mm-mm.
try to form or sculpt yourself to be a unique gardener, because people are gonna love that you don't imitate other
Yeah.
people. you do your own stuff. You do your own landscape designs, you choose your proper plans, you discuss about your climate, you go towards it, and you don't kind of like imitate other people or copy it off of other people, because it could kind of get boring at certain areas, because they'll be like, oh, I just watched this video, why would I have to rewatch
Exactly.
it again? If not, you want to make unique content that other people will be interested in seeing it, but keeping it on the sort of size that people would want to see it. Because you don't want to make like those clickbait type videos that, although it gives you the views, some people are like, okay, I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing.
Yeah,
So
totally.
stay on top of topic, just have fun, transcript yourself in the screen. Don't play two faces, like this is how you are in one area, this is how you are off camera, on camera. You kind of have to transcript yourself, your personality, so people love who you are and they kind of go off of what you are, and they'll just follow you on your journey. Trust me when I say that.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree with you. You know, just be yourself, and don't overthink it. You know, but make sure you're giving correct information. You know, if you say this is how I do it, but if you're saying this is what you should do and it's wrong, it can set someone on the wrong path, where they'll fail. You know, so there is that element of as well where you need to make sure that if you are doing a tutorial or you are doing something, then you need to be showing them the correct way, you know, and but also be mindful of where they're watching it from as well. You know, like I could show you how to plant a potato, and it will come to, you know, it will come to a great harvest. But then you could do the exactly same video like you said, and you've got all those different elements battling back as well, and they'll be thinking the same thing. They'll be thinking, you know, why isn't it working for me? You know, I would probably guess that perhaps your area is because of the humidity. I know that potatoes in our area, they don't like that humidity so much, and we get things called potato blight, and we get like blackening of the leaves and things. So, you know, there is always those things. So always grow for your area as well. You know, you might see one of your favorite YouTubers from a different area, and that doesn't mean that you can grow that. But yeah, stick to your climate and obviously your area.
Definitely agree with the information type of things, because something I always tend to see nowadays with YouTube videos is that they give disinformation, which is technically misleading information that
Yeah.
gives you incorrect outcomes, and it just fails the audience members. That's why I always try to do research. You experiment first and then you upload your video, because you want to make sure you give the correct, or you transcript that correct information, so the gardener has the best chance at succeeding at their project than failing, because it does feel kind of bad that you're like following the tutorial and then like you fail at it. So definitely try to do research or experiment on your area. Definitely give tips with certain areas. So like if you're doing a tutorial video on growing peach trees, give like the care
Yeah.
tips for drought areas or humid areas. Just have a
Agreed.
wide range of information, so different people from different climate areas or zones or etc. know what they're reading, and they can actually grab some details or information from your video, and they love what they see. So definitely you could kind of model it to your area, but try to keep it open-minded for other gardeners.
I totally agree. Like this lemon tree here, like I'm keeping it indoors now for another couple of weeks. Then it'll go out into my my polytunnel. But you wouldn't be doing that. You know, yours would be outside and it'd be flourishing. But I'm protecting this, this lemon tree, and it's tiny, but it's it's the same information can be the right information, just the wrong area.
Definitely agree. So if you are on that like side of doubt of trying to start a YouTube channel, definitely go for it, because it's definitely a fun experience to do.
Yeah.
And something that I always realize when it comes to gardeners who are on YouTube is that they're not doing it for the revenue of YouTube. If not, they're doing it to educate other gardeners on what gardening is, as well as they're trying to spend or have time or fun time or trying to spend a great time
Totally.
with themselves. It's definitely not like, oh, I'm here in it for the money, I want to get paid, etc. If not, I'm here to teach other people, and I'm here to share my passion and enthusiasm and transcript that to the viewer, so they could have inspiration or they could have the same passion and go outside and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So we finished discussing about the garden topic, about gardening on YouTube, as well as with their interview. And I'm super, super honored and pleased to have Danny from the Grapevine Garden over with us from the Grapevine Garden. And I'm super, super happy to have him on the show. Definitely go check him
You're
out.
welcome.
All his media information is in the description box below. Go check him out. Go let him know that I sent you guys over there, because he has some fun content for you guys to go ahead and view. So that's going to be wrapping up our second episode. So thank you again, Danny, for joining us on this episode.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on.
And we'll go ahead and see you guys next time for episode 3 with our next featured gardener. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, y'all.